Welcome back. We're shining the spotlight this morning on a murder case. A 16-year-old girl who authorities say was lured through a dating app by a 35-year-old man. That girl, Miranda Corset, has been missing since last month. This is her. St. Petersburg police say that she was killed inside of this man's house, and that evidence found inside that home leads them to believe that Miranda Corset was also murdered and dismembered. They still haven't located her body. Now, police are reportedly working to find those dismembered remains. 35-year-old Stephen Gress, on the left there, is in custody facing kidnapping and murder charges, and his 37-year-old partner has also been arrested and charged with murder. Julia Salamone from Scripps News in St. Petersburg, Florida, reports.
A frantic few days inside this St. Pete duplex.
Guns drawn, police threw him down on the ground, handcuffed him, put him in a cruiser. Ever since then, cops here 24/7 for 3 days.
That neighbor recalling the arrest of 35-year-old Stephen Gress last Wednesday, March 5th. Police say they took him in for pointing a harpoon at his girlfriend, Michelle Brandis, and possessing drugs. But evidence discovered inside and at another home in Largo are far more grisly. On February 14th, detectives say 16-year-old Miranda Corsetti was lured to the St. Pete home to meet up with Gress. Corsetti went home that night, but a day later, she returned and stayed.
On the 20th, at the house, there was some type of dispute over some missing jewelry. So from the 20th to the 24th, she was beaten and tortured because they could not find this piece of jewelry.
Police Chief Anthony Holloway says they killed her and then drove her body to a home in Largo, where evidence inside led them to believe she was dismembered. Then, detectives say her body was driven to Ruskin and dumped in a dumpster.
And her body is somewhere, possibly in a landfill somewhere in that county.
Which is what's making the search for her so difficult. Police were asking Brandis to turn herself in, and on Saturday, she did. She faced a judge for her first appearance on Sunday. Chief Holloway has a warning for other parents.
Please, I'm begging you, please, make sure you know what your kids are doing on social media.
Brandis and Gress are both charged with first-degree murder. Heather Lee, ABC Action News.
Oh, this is so sad. You know, and what's even sadder to me is that this young child went to meet him for the first time. And then after the meeting, she went home. She got back to her house safely. What a gift. But then she returned back to the home of this adult man and his adult girlfriend. And that's when she never made it out alive. Apparently, it was a ring, was the piece of jewelry. The dispute was over. But this should have never happened. This child should have never been lured by these people. Let's bring in our guest, still with me, private investigator Manuel Gomez. I want to welcome in criminology expert, professor at St. Thomas University, and author Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Debbie, let me begin with you. Help us get into the mind of someone like this adult man who was apparently 35 years old and communicating with this teenager on the dating app, and then saw in person that she's the teen, but still continued that. And girlfriend, I don't know how much she knew up front, but who knows if she had communications. But both adults here, that child shouldn't have been in the house. What does it say to you about those adult actors here?
Absolutely, Julie. It says to me this is a crime from beginning, middle to the end of evil. And if we may, we'll use the acronym of evil, E for extreme and excessive brutality and this heinous and horrible display of conduct that our young victim endured. The V for violence. You know, within the one case, we now have at least 4 violent crimes, potentially more, kidnapping, aggravated assault and battery, murder, and then dismemberment. And in criminology, Julie, we refer to the latter as murder concealment. And then the I for indecency. These individuals treated her in such a brutal, barbaric manner. And lastly, the L, I would say, is for lawlessness. Clearly, these two co-defendants have zero regard for laws, rules, humanity, and I hope the state of Florida will react and respond with swift, severe and certain penalty for both of them.
Dr. Debbie, so eloquently put. You were spot on. I was taking notes. Evil, excessive, violent, indecent, and lawlessness. All of that apparently going on in this house, taking the life of that child who was lured. Thank you for that. Manuel Gomez, let's talk about the luring, these predators, how they do this. What do you think when you hear about the facts of this case?
Well, unfortunately, the Miranda Corset case is a perfect example of grooming. And this goes on all the time on dating apps and also via games when kids play their games and Fortnite and things like that. These predators who are out there are looking for ideal candidates like this young lady. Unfortunately, this guy, he went and did it to the max. He took her out. He showed her an amazing time. He built her security and her trust. This is why, Julie, she went back the next day because she felt comfortable. He even was so tenacious to go and drive her home. I mean, this guy, I was doing an analysis and searching online about Stephen Grease. There's pictures of him up online holding a book saying Bobbitt Whacker set from Lorena Bobbitt holding a knife. And then in the picture shows him with a bloody handprint on the wall and a door ripped off the frame. This guy was already glorifying dismemberment. This guy already was violation of a felony probation. He should have been in jail. And parents, take this case as a warning. You need to put an app on your kids' phones. I use it and I recommend it for most of my clients. M-Spy, it costs $1 a day. It'll tell you where your kid's at, who's talking to them, let you hear the conversations. We need to be more proactive. This lady, Miranda, is just one of thousands that happen every day.
Wow. Manuel, so much. So I have such a reaction here. First of all, everybody needs to watch this show because we have the best guests on, like you and Dr. Debbie Goodman, and the information that you share. I haven't seen any media outlet covering this case share what you just shared with us, Manuel, doing that independent investigation. And you do it with all our cases. You'll look things up, you'll hear things, you've got sources. And the fact that this guy is broadcasting that, and yet that's not the headline. The headline, of course, this beautiful child is still missing, and we hope that her body can be recovered so she can be properly buried. But the fact that this guy may be glorifying dismemberment, as you said, based on his profile picture. Dr. Debbie, what did you think when you hear that from Manuel?
Oh, I think Manuel is spot on, and I appreciate his step-by-step approach to literally warn parents. This is important, Julie. Our children are at great risk of individuals such as Greece and others who literally are spending time, effort, energy, preying upon our youth for the most brutal and barbaric of victimizations. And he's right, as you've heard me say before, I don't even think we have a good actual valid number on how many children are victimized in this capacity throughout our calendar years, but it can be prevented. It has to be prevented, and through the due diligence of parents and saying no, 2 little letters. It's okay. We like to say yes to our children, but safety, security, and survival has got to be paramount every single day.
Yes, preach, Dr. Debbie, preach. The idea that this guy might have a fixation on dismemberment, what does that say to you, Dr. Debbie, about his mind?
Well, believe it or not, Julie, I think when it comes to dismemberment, it's actually going to be an important talking point when it gets to trial. Why? Because for me as a criminologist, it shows, again, as we said at the onset, murder concealment. You see, when people are insane, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing is wrong. But I actually look at dismemberment as the action one takes to conceal their crime, and therefore they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong. But again, all of this from beginning, middle, until the end, unfortunately, tragically, of what our young victim endured suggests to me planning, preparation, premeditation, and hopefully at the end, the harshest penalty possible from the law.